Former and current Chuck E. Cheese workers, what are some of the worst things to happen to you while working? I have a good friend who used to work at Chuck E. Cheese. Him and his fellow co-workers conspired over the span of a few months to steal the various pieces of the suit. They would claim that this part got ripped or some kid messed up this part and we had to throw it out, until they had a full suit. For what reason, you ask? Literally just to take turns showing up to parties in the full suit to make a bunch of drunk people super stoked. One piece at a time. Had a complaint that a kid was dipping toilet paper into a women's toilet then eating it. He was. Same kid beat me mercilessly while I was wearing the rat in hat suit. While screaming man in suit. The best was a complaint about the same kid eating from other families' tables. He was. And he looked them dead in the eyes while doing it. These were all different days. Had a little girl walk up to our table with the dead eyes and without a word took a slice of pizza and walked off. I did not know that zombie pizza snatching children was a thing. I worked at SEC as my first job. On more than one occasion kids went up to the sky netting, basically a bird nest made out of rope suspended in the air, and would take a crap. Naturally, since it was netting, the crap would fall through and onto anyone who happened to be below. After this happened a few times, we decided to move the carousel ride, which had a roof, under the bird nest so at least it would land on the roof and not someone's head. Thank you. A named Chuck E. Cheese employee who saved naive, desperate for employment me by answering my question about employment with "You don't want to work here. You are a hero." Former. Anytime a kid threw up in the ball pit was an especially horrible day. There were several instances during the 6 years I had worked there, but these times were quite memorable. There were two ways you could do this. 1. A large, both sides opened, cardboard box to cordon off the affected area, saying it was a slow day and other kids weren't splashing all the balls around. We had very large netting bags so that you could gather all the balls and take them outside and they would be sprayed off. Or 2. If the spew was all up in the ball pits, then all the freaking balls had to be gathered, sprayed off, and the inside liner that held the balls had to be wiped down and cleaned. Only good thing about having to take out all the balls was that you could find some pretty good stuff that happened to be in people's pockets and fill out: money, pocket knives, and even rings. Former employee, 6 months in high school. 1. A family racked up a $300 bill and tried to pay for it with food stamps. 2. Two families got into a fight during their kid's birthday party and had to be escorted by the police out. I later found one of their weaves on the table. 3. I got kicked in the crotch while in the Chuck E. suit. I'm a girl, and it still hurt. 4. A little girl asked me when the real Chuck E. was gonna come out because I was too short to be the real Chuck E. 5. A mom wanted to show her kid that under the costume, it was just a real person and asked if I would take off Chuck E.'s head to show her daughter. I did, and the kid got even more freaked out thinking that the mouse had engulfed me. I've repressed a lot of the memories, but this is what I can remember. Worked at SEC for nearly 2 years during high school and then again later for another year. The worst parts almost always had to do with the parents, of course. The one that sticks out in my head the most is the super drunk, very unattractive older woman who stuck her hands down the front of my pants. It was just after I started. I was 15 and spent the first few months there working the game room floor. This lady came up to me saying one of the machines was not giving out tickets and I needed to check it out for her. I sat down on the stool to open up the panel and check things out. During this time she began rubbing my back saying how cute I was and how much of a help I was being. It was about this time I realized she reeked of booze and was drunk. Next thing I knew, one of her hands was down the front of my shorts and she had found the prize she was after. I quickly sprang up from my seat saying I had to get some tools from the back. I went and told the games manager what happened. I'm not really sure what happened after that as I stayed in the back for a while. Next time I came back out she was gone, thankfully. As a whole, I look back at my time working there with fond memories. Our place was almost entirely staffed with high school or young college kids. Had a ton of great times there and the pizza kicked butt. But yes, cleaning crap out of the skytub sucks. Just remembered the craziest thing that ever happened while I worked there. Next door to us was the DMV and one day a lady parked in the fire lane in front it to help her elderly passenger inside to find a seat. Well, in the time it took her to do that, a tow truck swooped in to tow her. This happened fairly frequently in our parking lot, so my co-worker buddy and I got closer to the glass at the front of the store to watch the shenanigans. The tow truck backed right up to the car, lifted the front end and started pulling away with it. As the towed car passed our windows, we realized there were kids in the back seat. My buddy and I ran out the front doors of the store and started chasing after the guy screaming about the kids. We finally caught up to him in the back of the parking lot where he would usually secure the car to the truck before taking it back to the lot, and told him what he did. He just said, "Oh crap," dropped the car and took off. At this point the mom of the kids had ran to where we were at, understandably, screaming about her babies. The cops were called, and since we knew which company the truck belonged, the tow truck driver eventually showed back up. Not sure how much trouble the driver actually got in, but the cops were telling us that the law states that tow truck drivers must verify there are no passengers in the car before doing a snatch and grab. Adrenaline was definitely pumping with me and my co-worker for a while after that one. How very interesting that both of your most outrageous CEC memories involve a snatch and grab. I remember when I worked at that crap hole, I had to take out the coins out of the machines and refill the tickets and clean. Worst thing that happened was not the crap or vomit in the tubes above that the kids crawl in, but the time a kid apparently had to take a crap, but didn't want to go to the bathroom cause he would lose all his progress. So he takes a crap right where he is standing. Guess he was 3 tokens deep, so he committed to the game. Well, at one point he loses and runs out of tokens. Guess what he does next? If you guessed walk away with the crap on the floor like it wasn't his, you are wrong. He freaking grabs his crap and just smears it all over the machine like he is frosting a cake. Full on tantrums while trying to talk crap, then just wipes their hands on the carpet. Glad I heard this from a coworker. Maybe he was trying to write his initials on the machine itself. I worked there for only 4 months in high school before I quit. Everyone was required to wear the mouse costume. Kids would literally beat you up to get your attention. It sucked because I went to a Catholic high school where we wore uniform skirts. Every Monday morning I would go to school covered in bruises. That must have raised a lot of questions about home life and one too many trips to the counselor's office. The worst part was wearing that rat suit after this one dude was in it. He took it serious and would get up on the prize tables and get the kids to chant Chucky, Chucky. I could freaking hear it back in the kitchen over the noise and music. Dude was butt naked in the suit, and he sweat a lot. I probably have hepatitis. Best part was taking the leftover pizza dough into the back lot after closing and having a 1v1 death match throwing softball sized dough balls at each other's heads. Didn't happen to me, but somebody got stabbed. We actually hired a bouncer on our busiest days because we attracted the trashiest people. There was also a ton of fricking in the Chuck E. closet. I worked at a Chuck E. Cheese in high school in a wealthy area, so I got the bright idea to neatly fold and rip off the part of the bill that stated, "Tips are included in the cost." They weren't. I got my co-workers in on it, and eventually we started presenting the bills to each other's parties and saying, if you'd like to tip your host, they can only accept cash, to plant the idea in the parents' head. One day we got caught. I got blamed. I wasn't allowed to host parties anymore. Instead, the GM hired his family and friends and allowed them to abuse my system. It was a gold mine, because sometimes I would take home $200 in cash as a 16-year-old. I didn't even make that in 2 weekends of hourly pay. This happened in the state of California, where servers still make minimum wage, not some $2.13 bulls. I was originally offered around $8.50, but that was retracted and I was paid $8 because I would receive tips, supposedly, which is what motivated me to beat the system. Not my story, but my dad's. This was decades ago. He worked as the man in the suit, and all his friends knew it. He had this one friend, we can call him Gene, who liked to take things over the top. He was working and suddenly, my dad hears a roar. He turns to see his buddy Gene sprinting at him, full speed, no stop in sight. Boom, my dad is on the ground, head off, and the only thing heard was the screams of young children. My dad got fired that day. My dad told me that his boss thought it was a planned prank on the company. As much as my dad denied it, he couldn't keep himself from laughing. My dad was a known prankster anyways, so he just accepted it. Former manager checking in from like 10-15 years ago with a throwaway. I have a few worsts. I have divided them up below. Actual worst. The time a custody dispute carried into a birthday party for a 3-year-old. Multiple people had guns and knives. Someone actually fired at the mother, and someone else tried to cut the father. This caused a full-on riot resulting in a lockdown. Luckily we were very close to a police station and no one was seriously injured. Hilarious worst. 2 employees fricking in the Chucky closet, where employees could go change without being in the way of the kitchen or in a sight of the kids, while one was wearing the Chucky head. This was bad because once the closet was unlocked open you were in sight and we had lots of horrified parents and terrified children and it was really hard to not laugh. Creepy worst. One of the animatronics failed and became possessed. We were about 2 weeks away from becoming a stage 2 store. Next level of upgrades improvements including removing the animatronics. So they told us just to let it go and try to keep it in check. It sounded demonic and would turn on at random. Like in the middle of the happy birthday song its head hit a point that it couldn't turn anymore and got stuck moving a few inches back and forth and then caught on fire while trying to demonically still sing. Sad worst. We all had to get background checks if we had not been employed for 30 days because a manager in our district, but not our store, turned out to not be taking care of his dying mother for a month. He was actually in jail for a DUI. The area manager was concerned about what else they didn't know because he had been with the company for like 25 years and worked up from a cashier. They ran a background check and he had multiple issues with the law. His family vacations were all timed with when he was in jail and was a registered diddler. I worked at a store where it was discovered that one of the managers was a registered diddler. He was arrested years before for diddling an underage girl. He was legally not allowed to be near kids. He was quickly fired. Not the worst, actually pretty good depending on your perspective. My dad used to manage one back in the mid-80s and would always go through the cash registers at the end of every night and trade in his own pocket change for all of the rare, vintage coinage that teenagers would steal from their parents' stashes. He amassed a great collection of silver coins and other discontinued currency, mercury dimes, buffalo nickels etc. He still has all of it to this day. My dad had a collection like that and about 12 years ago or so my mom and I took it to the bank so we could get quarters for the arcade. The box was maybe worth a couple hundred, maybe $1,000, and my dad was P. Former employee of 9 months. 1. Very old woman peeing on the carpet in the entrance while standing up. 2. Cleaning pee out of the sky tubes after a complaint that it got in a kid's eyes and he couldn't see. 3. Walking into the bathroom to find an abandoned pair of underwear with poop in it. Took everything I had to not throw up when throwing it away. 4. While in the Chucky suit, being asked by a large black man wearing all blue why you got all that red on. Cut. 5. Asking a mute girl if she wanted to put her candles on her cake and being told she can't talk by her parents. There were definitely many more less than enjoyable experiences, but these are the ones that stand out to me. Till gangs use giant mice to mark their territories. I was the technician at a Chucky Cheese in high school. One day I was covering someone and I had to wear the suit and do the show. On my way back to the room, a little kid runs up to see Chucky and stabbed me in the ankle with a pencil as hard as he could. I rushed into the back room and took off the pants portion of the suit, pulled down my sock, and a bunch of blood poured out. Didn't even go home early. Boss just had me stand at the door. Not an employee, but one time, as a very young kid, my older brother almost got lured out of the building by a stranger with the promise of a bunch of free tickets. I intervened, and everything was fine. Employees were notified. Another time he almost got into a truck to help find a missing puppy. He was a very kidnappable kid I guess, but I can't seem to get rid of his dumb butt. Walked in on this 40-year man jerking off. Our eyes met and we kind of just stared at one another. Most awkward 10 seconds of my life. The dang suit. I was a game room tech. That part was awesome. I got to play games all day, fix coin jams, etc. However, one day before I was allowed to leave, they decided I had to wear the suit. This was 10 years ago, so it was before the redesign of Chucky Cheese. I'm 6 feet and with the suit on, ears included I was a giant. You can't really see in the dang thing. Anyway, they led me out into the main area and I'm basically lumbering around. It's this horrible experience because I couldn't see. I kept bumping into things. You'd think this would be the worst part. Nope. It was the kids I scared. They counted. I made 7 children break down, scream, and bawl their eyes out. I felt like crap for it. Wasn't much I could do, though. It got better. I finally get to take the suit off and leave. I'm walking to my car and this family is leaving. The little boy is crying. I figured it was due to having to leave. Nah, he's upset because Chucky Cheese terrified him. The mom goes, "I've had it. You need to straighten up already. If you don't, I'll take you back in and feed you to that giant mouse." Worst experience. Another time, we had these sketchy fellows come in and try and rob us right before close. Our manager, let's call him O, decided he wasn't going to call the cops and would handle it himself. So, he runs back to the kitchen and grabs the pizza cutter. Basically, it's a giant curved machete. He's trying to be all sneaky, kind of hide it by keeping it close to his leg. We all thought we were about to get shot because he wanted to play a hero. The guys ended up fleeing, after seeing him with a giant blade. But it was a pretty terrifying experience for a young high school kid. I've had it. You need to straighten up already. If you don't, I'll take you back in and feed you to that giant mouse. Ha 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 ha. Having to wear that costume, it's probably one of the most degrading things I've ever had to do. Having to clean the bathrooms, watching children open up the containers with cheese and lick them and wonder how many times I've used condiments after children have licked them. Catching strep throat several times. Have a group of bored parents test the system of making sure the correct kid leaves with the correct parent. We don't usually check this because it would be obvious if you're taking a kid cause the kid would be crying. That's usually when I would check, or if the kid didn't look like the parent. Have some lady accuse us of spraying Windex in the salad. Manager told us we couldn't take sick days unless we had a doctor's note, which is against the law. Manager would scream and degrade us, teenagers, in front of whoever. Having to close at the end of the night because we were basically be cleaning up after children. Having to deal with crappy parents. Having parents complain about our attitude because we don't want to be around their crappy kids. Having kids constantly running while you're trying to deliver a pizza. Wheelies. Having to clean the sky tubes after a kid crap in them. Having to work with teenagers who are not the nicest group of people. Mothers dropping their children's diapers on the floor instead of the trash can. I've blocked the rest out. Why is there so much crap in these stories? I've been at SEC for 4 years. I'm a cashier, and I remember I had a closing shift one night. Cashiers closed down the cash area, salad bar, beverage bar, and restrooms, at least at my location. I usually leave the restrooms last, so on that night I had finished up everything else and went to clean restrooms. My location is typically very clean, so I had never had an issue with restrooms. Until that day, when I walked into the women's room, I saw what no employee wants to see in the restrooms. It was in the biggest stall. Just imagine poop, but everywhere. On the walls, on the seat, on the floor. It was like, semi-solid, almost liquid-like. On the floor near the drain was more poop. Imagine the poop emoji, but in real life. That's what was there. I remember a co-worker came in and Snapchatted it for some reason. I have no idea how a human could have accomplished this. I called my manager for backup. He came in and screamed. I screamed. We then cleaned it up begrudgingly. I wore like 5 pairs of gloves at the same time. Took us far longer than usual. I wasn't happy, to say the least. Luckily it has never happened since. Nothing has ever been worse than that. TLDR. Big stall of women's restroom. Explosion of liquid like poop everywhere. The real life equivalent of the poop emoji also makes an appearance. My manager and I scream in horror. Can relate. Happened about 10 years ago. There was crap straight up the wall. We ran the hose from out back. Also after that, one of my staff pranked me with a fake turd made out of Tootsie Rolls. I wasn't even mad. Not a former employee, but one time I saw 2 families going at it, throwing punches, cursing and spitting because one of the kids took some tickets from one of the arcade games that didn't belong to him. Cops had to be called and both dads got arrested. It's a pretty classic viral video gif. One time at Chuck E. Cheese when I was working there, some food fight broke out and one kid chucked his entire cake straight at Chuck E. and he cried about how he didn't get a cake. The kid's mom went into the bathroom and she was in there for a good 15 minutes. I went in there to ask what was up and I saw her having a mental breakdown. Turns out she spent hours making that cake special for him, and it was all ruined in about 30 seconds. Dang, poor woman. Kids have no idea the damage they do sometimes. This happened 15 years ago or so. I was designated to be the big cheese himself, a glorious honor, haha, and the fact that I was one of the only guys that worked there, which meant I was almost always the chosen one for that hot butt suit. This day a football team was having a party there, 10 or 12-year-olds or something. My manager knew what was going to happen me though. My young naive brain only had innocent thoughts about making the children happy. Then the coach playfully tosses me a football. In my vision at least, so I actually caught it. It happened. A horde of 10-year-olds descended upon me in the cramped area between two long tables. Valiantly as I tried, these little demons proceeded to tackle me onto the ground. I thankfully didn't break anything and I kept my head from falling off while being knocked around. But I was pee. As soon as they got off me, I got up and left to go to the back and take off the sec outfit. Another time, the same manager as the last story made me work off the clock, but I was too young and dumb to document and report it. One of my friends used to work there and for whatever reason as a one-off she ended up having to go to some event at a school in the mouse suit. The kids were totally freaky and there was a huge crowd of them. They were all like flipping out, screaming and trying to grab her. She said she felt like the Pope. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese for a year in high school. It was the worst job I ever had. The absolute worst day was having to clean crap and vomit out of the sky tubs. 2 separate occasions, several hours apart. I've never been the same since. The funniest thing, though, was the co-workers who had a threesome in the closet where we kept the Chuck E. costume. Guy asked me cover for him during closing and took 2 other co-workers into the closet and banged them. Thing is, there was a camera in that closet. That was the last time I ever saw all 3 of them. I can actually answer this one. The amount of kids that put jello in their mouths then spit it back out at the salad bar is incredible. It's also not uncommon for a kid to throw up in the sky tubes or pee down a slide. But the best one I saw during my time there was a girl maybe 4 years old eat her body weight in pizza and soda then run around for an hour. At one point she got very pale and puked more than I've seen any grown man puke in my life. Her mom picked her up and started sprinting to the bathroom like an Alabama running back. The girl just kept puking and left a decent trail the entire route to the bathroom. 10/10 would watch again. At that point it would be best to just shrug and let the girl puke in one spot. No need to spread that crap around. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.